Welcome to session 3. We're going to be talking about identity today. And this is one of my very favorites, I have to admit. This is one of those that, as we talk about this, please just try to receive. I'm going to give more testimony than normal probably, and we'll see how that goes. But I do know that what I want from you is not to seek an experience like mine, but seek an experience of your own, okay? So basically, we want each of us to really start functioning in our true eternal image, in our identity in the Lord, that sometimes just gets overwhelmed by everyone else. And so anyway, Aaron Michael, I'm going to mute you out. Please don't be offended. You can always unmute, okay? All right, great. Well, so as we get started today, I want to tell you a little bit about my journey in identity. And I will have to say, I am still almost every day finding more things about my identity, good and bad. And when I say good and bad, I mean, sometimes I come in line with false identity. And that's something that's really common. It's really common for people to come in line with false identity and have no idea. Hi, Myrna. Oh, she looks so cute today. All right, wonderful. So anyway, unfortunately, it's one of these things that we have a tendency to really take on the personality of a lot of sin that has corrupted our lives, whether sin that's passed down from the Father or, I mean, not from the Father of lights, not like from God the Father. I'm talking about our earthly dads, okay? The sins of the Father passed down from generation to generation, the Bible says. And a lot of those things have a tendency to, because we start out with them, we think it's just who we are. And so can be a struggle for many people, and it's been a struggle in my life to even recognize these things half the time. Okay, there are some things that are pretty clear, and then there are other things that are, I mean, like today I just discovered one about myself that I'm like, oh my goodness, that is deep-seated. I need some cleansing from that. And this happens all the time, and I think it's a journey that we go on to really come more and more and more into our true identity in the Lord. And so I'm going to share just some things of how my journey has been relating to how to really come in line with who God made you to be in the heavenly realms, okay? Because this is different than who we think we are here. For years and years, I have loved personality profiling psychology, okay? That's been something that I've just been really interested in for all of my adult life. Actually, ever since college, I just loved Myers-Briggs. I don't know if you know anything about that, but it's personality profiling that helps. It's always helped me to understand myself. But I didn't really understand that everything I was learning about myself was really my soul and not my spirit. And so when I have done this, it's really been eye-opening since I've learned some things about my spirit that actually my soul's quite different. And it's not necessarily bad. It's just different than who I am in the spirit. Some things are bad because if you focus only on the soul and let your soul lead, then, it's not going to turn out well for you. But our soul is a great follower. And so if we can allow ourselves to love our soul and to have our soul follow the spirit, then everything starts coming in line. So for me, here's an example. In the natural, I am like a super feeler, which means that I feel sorry for everybody, and I cry at every commercial, and just that's how I am. I see somebody on the side of the road and I just want to help them, and that's how I've always been. And many people for years have said, wow, you are totally gifted in mercy. That has to be your spiritual gift. And I've had preachers say, if you find yourself crying at the drop of a hat, you're probably gifted in mercy. Well, I just accepted that that's who I was. I must be gifted in mercy. So I'll embrace this part of me. What I learned, though, was that actually that is how my soul is. It's something that has been learned for me since I was a little girl. I learned to be a people pleaser. It's what I like to do. I wanted everybody to be happy with each other and with me. And I just became that person. And there were certain things that I loved about that and that were godly attributes. But then there were other things that were really driven from a sin attribute that I didn't really understand. It was a fear. It was a fear of upsetting people. It was a fear of them not being happy with me or whatever. That's something that drove me to do a lot of things. There have been a lot of times where I have helped people, not because I had a true desire and love from the Lord to do it, but because I didn't want to say no. And, that's a people pleaser thing. That's a feeler kind of thing to do. Well, in the Spirit, I've noticed when I'm truly walking in the Spirit, I actually am not very gifted in mercy. So for me, if say Myrna, she's telling me this awful, sad story. If I'm focused in my soul, I will likely cry and bawl with her about it, okay? But if I'm focused in the Spirit, I'm looking at what the enemy's doing and I'm looking at how to fix things in the Spirit, because one of the things that I am a leader in the Spirit. And so I am always trying to look over things and learn what I can do. And so I don't have that same mercy thing going on where I'm looking to feel sorry for her. What I'm doing is I'm looking at how can we fix this in the spiritual realm, in the heavenly realms. And so it's just a different way of going about things. And I never knew that I was gifted in leadership. Leadership is also a ruler gifting. So you'll find these sort of things in the grace giftings of Romans chapter 10, I think, 8, I don't know. You should go look it up. But anyway, Myrna said like kings and priests. That's exactly right. I mostly function in a kingly way, although I also do have priestly things as well. But for me, I have now come in line with a new part of my identity that I didn't know I had. So once I started going through my day and I would focus through the 4 faces of God that are before the throne, I noticed that God was oftentimes having me see through the eyes of the lion. The lion is the ruler or the leader. And I never saw myself as that. And so it was interesting when I'd look through that, then the Lord would show me how I was supposed to lead for the day, or anyway, there's lots of times when this will sound silly, but the Lord has me roar over my mountain and just get rid of the enemy and shake the atmosphere, and things happen like that. And so that's a different part of my identity that the Lord said, you need to focus on this and recognize that this is who you are. And so when I learned that, I'm like, oh, wow, okay. So you can see this. You guys see this? This is my phone case. And it's the lion. And it's to remind me of who I am. I really come in line with the lion. And this has now become very normal for me. And so I function like this most of the time. In fact, now it's really hard for me not to lead. It's one of those things that I go and I go to some church I've never been to because a guest speaker's there, and the Lord is like, okay, you need to stand up and say this. And I'm like, that's not what I want to do. This isn't my place, and I can't even help it because God has made me to be that person. And so anyway, this happens a lot to me. And there are things that I've recognized along the way that are big and bold, and other things that I never even wanted to step into. The main thing that I did that really started shaping who I was I sought my destiny scroll. And so this basically, everyone has either a destiny scroll or a book of destiny. The Lord has written out your destiny before the foundations of the earth. The Bible talks about this. He knows everything about how long we're going to live and all of these things, right? Well, I heard a speaker Ian Clayton. I don't know if you've heard of him before, but when I first started being introduced to the heavenly realms stuff, it was through listening to one of his conferences, just on a recording or whatever. And when I did, he said, the first thing you need to do is you need to ask God to see your destiny scroll. And you need to then take responsibility to step into what's on your scroll. And so, I didn't really know how to do that, because at that time I'm like, well, how do I go and ask for my scroll? And, little did I know it was really that simple. You just ask God, but everything seemed more complicated to me back then. And so I didn't know what to do. So I didn't really do anything. But I was at this, there was this guest worship leader who did prophetic worship who came to town. And so I went to go and sit under that and worship and all of that, And as we were worshiping, all of a sudden I was taken to the throne room. And I realized at this time, wow, I've been here before. I didn't realize this was a real place. And it was so funny because I would focus a lot when I was praying on going before the throne. And I didn't really mean to. It was just how I prayed. It's just I'm focusing, and I think it's in my imagination. I'm making it up. I don't know why, but I did. I thought it was just me making it up, and it was in my imagination, until God took me to this place, and I realized I'd been here over and over. And then I'm like, oh, wow. And so I'm thinking, I'm before the throne. I'm going to ask to see my destiny scroll. So I said, Father, if I have a destiny scroll, could I please see it? I think I'm ready to step into the responsibility of doing what's on my scroll. And he showed me only one word. And I was kind of disappointed that he only showed me one word, because I'm thinking I'm going to see like a big, long thing of everything about my life. And yeah, that wasn't the case. But anyway, the one word he showed me was intercessor. And I'd been told my whole life that I was an intercessor. And because at church, in public or whatever, I would always be happy to pray for anyone who needed prayer. I'd be that person who was on the side of, on the side waiting for anybody who needed to come for prayer. I was that person, right? Everybody knew that about me, so they always called me an intercessor. But I knew in my heart, when I went home, I never remembered to pray for people. And so I knew I was not a true intercessor, because I thought of intercessor as those people who pray day and night for people. And I'm like, yeah, I forget every time, so that's clearly not me. Well, anyway, when I saw the word intercessor on my scroll, the Father showed me that it wasn't what I thought it meant. That what he really meant by that, at least, and I'm not saying that people use it wrong, what he meant on my scroll was that meant that I was supposed to lead people into the heavenly realms. Note, I didn't know how to do that. I didn't even know how to intentionally engage in heaven at that point. And so immediately I go, oh, no, God, I'm not worthy of that. And I truly meant it. And he stood up with great authority, which I had never experienced from him before. He's always been nice and sweet and lovey-dovey to me. But he stood up with his authority, and he said, you don't tell me if you're worthy. I tell you if you're worthy. And showed me I was on the arm of Jesus as the bride, and that's what made me worthy. And immediately I'm like, yes, Lord, okay, whatever you say. I don't know how to explain, but it was a very, you get the fear of the Lord kind of thing at this time, and I understand that now. He wasn't being rude. He was just being very, I would say, strict with me. Like, hey, it's my way, not your way, actually, And so anyway, I didn't realize that I had problems with feeling unworthy until right after that. I had a lot of people who would basically, I started walking in this whole leading people into the heavenly realms thing. And it was actually, I didn't want to. It freaked me out. At first, it truly did. It was a step of faith every time. The first time someone asked me, he said he wanted to introduce me to his spiritual mother, like someone who raised him in the faith. And I was like, okay, so we're meeting, and he says, so Christine, would you lead us into engaging in heaven? And I was like, sure. And I had no idea what I was doing. And I just was, it was a total step of faith, like, God, you said I'm supposed to do this, so you got to lead me. And I didn't know how. And it was amazing. Because it wasn't me. And I think that that's perhaps why he chose me, is because I don't know what I'm doing. And so I just rely on him. And anyway, people say this all the time, well, what do I do about this and this? And I'm like, all I do is I'm led by the Lord. I don't know. So this is truly how I function. And he knew that about me. And so when I lead people in the heavenly realms, I might have an idea of what to do, but more times than not, he takes over and does something totally different. And so anyway, I started walking in this, and I was amazed at what happened. People just had these amazing experiences with the Lord, and people's lives were being transformed, just like mine was. Mine was being transformed at the same time. So it was kind of like I was maybe one step ahead of people, barely. And that was it. And I started doing it. And then God said, hey, you need to start a mentoring group. And I said, mentoring group? Nobody cares about being mentored by me. And then all of a sudden, the next week, I had like 7 people ask me to mentor them. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess he was right. And so I started a mentoring group. And anyway, long story short, step by step, he showed me, you need to put this online and help people who are not just in your area do this. And so I did. And then he said, oh, and do this. And anyway, all of this happened. But then I started getting a lot of pushback from religious folk. Okay. So I had a lot of people who would go, you shouldn't be doing this. You haven't been walking in it long enough. You need to sit under some teaching instead of just trying to spend all your time with God. You're not worthy of this. And as soon as I would hear those words, you're not worthy of this, everything was changed, because I was like, well, actually, I'm not the one who decides that. Neither are you. God is the one who says if I'm worthy. And I started realizing I used to just go run and hide and be like, you're right, I shouldn't be doing this. And now I'm like, actually, I'm not the one who decides that. Neither is the enemy, neither is a person. It affected me in a way that's truly part of my identity, is I know I'm worthy. And I'm not worthy because of anything I've done. I'm worthy because God says so. And that's it. And we all are, okay? But he decides, not us. And if the enemy tries to say, you're not worthy of doing this, you need to just, smack him in the face and say, excuse me, God is the one who decides that. That's really important. So for me, slowly but surely, these things are being shed off of me. These things I didn't even know were part of my identity, my unworthiness that I felt. That's probably why I didn't want to go and be in front of people all the time, is because I didn't feel worthy of that. I didn't feel like, I don't know. I mean, yes, I went to Bible college, but I didn't go to seminary, and I didn't have, an MDiv. And so I didn't feel like I was worthy of these things. And now I realize it has nothing to do with me. If God says to do it, I say yes, even though I think it's crazy. Every time, if he says, go over across the world and speak to a bunch of people who have never heard about this, it scares the crud out of me every time, but I do it anyway, because God says to do it. And so I say, well, he has a plan that I don't know about, so I'm just going to trust him. And every time he moves, every single time, it's so exciting. But anyway, there have been things that he has done to release identity in me from the heavenly realms that has been more lasting than anything that has happened before this. So here's another thing. It doesn't really make all the sense to me in the world, okay? But this is what has happened. There was a time when I was led into the Court of Kings, and this is one of the higher courts, and I did not know what I was doing, all right? It was near the very beginning of my walk. He led me into the Court of Kings when I was engaging with a group. and everyone was led to do legislation in the court of kings. Well, I was meeting with a bunch of people from all over the nation who had been doing this for a while. And I had not. I did it like one time before that, 3 days prior. Okay, I had no experience. And the Lord, he showed me 3 different scrolls. Well, actually, he gave me 3 different scrolls. He showed me what was on the first one. He told me the second one was for later, and he showed me what was on the third one. And so I just wrote everything that he showed me was on these scrolls, and or should be on these scrolls. But I also thought, I am sure I'm immature and I have no idea what I'm doing. Okay, it was still in my mind that I was a baby and I didn't know. And so he asked anyone who got anything from the Lord to come up and speak in a mic about it. And I'm like, I am not doing that. No way, Jose. I am not going to go speak in a mic about something I just received from the Lord because I don't know what I'm doing. All these people are, veterans. So I didn't say a word. The guy next to me is like, hey, you should go up there. I'm like, not doing it. And so I just stayed in my seat and everyone got up and spoke about stuff. And I realized as I heard one by one, the Lord truly is speaking through me. Like this is something that I do get because I could tell when other people weren't getting it. It was like, that's from the flesh. You can just tell, if you have any discernment, you can tell if somebody's doing it from the flesh or the soul, or if someone's doing it from the spirit. And so as this happened, I still didn't get up and say it, I'll be honest. But I realized, wow, okay, God really is giving me some sort of level of authority I don't understand. And so as he did this, he also wrote things to me in these scrolls that were actually not only for me, but they definitely changed things in me. In fact, here, I'm going to see if I can pull one up for you and see if I can share it because it was really impactful for me. Okay, so here's the first and third scroll, and you'll kind of understand how this releases identity in me, okay? But the first scroll, it had these Hebrew letters on it, and then it also said, I am the Holy One of Israel. You are to establish my kingdom on earth in this region. Take your place. Stand firm. Show no one anything that I haven't first shown you here. Do not waver. This is a time of boldness and mercy intermingled. My love will bring forth abundant fruit. Your ways will be higher because they are my ways. Wisdom will guide you in all you are bringing forth. And then the third scroll, he showed me this arch and these numbers that had to do with kingdom order. And I did not understand these things at that time. I just trusted him. And he said, just very short thing, he said, open the eyes of the heart of the Joshua generation. Establish kingdom order. Release healing power of my love on earth. And then he said that was all that I was to see at the time. And what has happened is just by receiving these scrolls, it has become who I am. And this may or may not make sense to you, but what happens when God gives you a scroll, whether you see something on it or you don't see something on it, it's because he's wanting to make it part of who you are. And so this is why, you remember in the book, I think it's Ezekiel, when he asked him to take the scroll and eat it. It was because what he was doing, he was making this mandate part of who he was, so he would outwork this in the earth. And this is what has happened to me. So, like the kingdom order thing that he showed me then, I didn't care about order. I'm not an orderly kind of person, okay? In my real life, I say real life, it's not as real as in the heavenlies, but at the time, this was the real life was here. And my soul is not orderly, okay? You put me in a box and I'm like, I need out of this box. Some people need structure. I want out of the structure. That's how I am. Well, when he released the scroll to me about kingdom order, in the spirit, all of a sudden, I became about kingdom order. When things don't have kingdom order, it literally drives me bonkers, until I have to fix it. And it's something that I mean, Erin Michael, she's laughing because you probably know, I have seen this in me. I'm like, okay, but so this needs to have these benches established because it's something that God has put in me, like this is how it's supposed to be, and if it's not like this, things won't work right. And I recognize that when other people are like, who cares about that stuff? And I get that they don't care about it because it's not on their scroll, but for me, that's part of who I am, is I'm supposed to establish kingdom order in the earth. And so the same thing about releasing his healing love in the earth. I have a healing mandate. So pretty much everything I do, I can't even help but try to help people in healing. You know, whether it's spiritual healing or physical healing or soul healing, it doesn't matter. I'm like all about God's healing love infiltrating their life. And so that's who I am. It's just, I can't even help it. Also, opening the eyes of it says, open the eyes of the heart of the Joshua generation. Most people won't even understand what that means. But for me, I have such a call on my life to get people out of the Moses generation and into the Joshua generation. The Moses generation would be, you know how Moses said, all right, come on, everybody, let's go up to the mountain of the Lord and let's hear from God. And they went, and God scared the crap out of them, and they fled, and they said, no, you go, Moses. Just tell us what God says, and we'll do that. And so a lot of the church in the world today is in the Moses generation. They're like, okay, pastor, give me the word. Just tell me what to do. Okay, prophet, give me the word from the Lord. What does God say to me? Everybody wants that. Nobody is seeking to go to him themselves. Not nobody, okay, but it's not as common. I realized that even when God told me this, I was still living in the Moses generation and didn't even understand it. Okay, I didn't recognize it in myself, but I was. Because when God said, hey, quit listening to these speakers that you've been listening to and these teachers, I want to teach you. And I was like, but wait, I don't know how to learn from just you. Are you sure? You know, I was really hesitant because I'm like, wait, I'm used to just learning from teachers. I want to go sit under any teacher that I can find who knows anything about this stuff. And God said, I need to be the one to teach you. Well, so I did that out of just by faith, okay. And he accelerated me, and I came out of the Moses generation into the Joshua generation. To now, it's even been hard because traditional church wants to have everyone come under leadership. It's from Constantine. They set up this pastor as the head of the church and everybody else underneath, right? And it's still been like this for a very long time, and people are used to functioning like that. When God brought me out of that, I could no longer do that. It doesn't mean I'm not respectful. I am totally respectful of people. I love their relationship with the Lord. But if they say, actually, Christine, I know you think God said to do this, but we say that it's not going to be like that. I'm going to be like, actually, I listen to the Lord and not to you. And so that's just how I am now, which before, as you know, I would have been a people pleaser and been like, yes, pastor, whatever you say. And that's how I've gotten in a lot of trouble by being like that in my life. Overly submissive. But for me, I don't do that anymore. Even they say, oh, we're establishing this fivefold ministry and it's going to be like this. And I'm just like, I can't come under that anymore. I'm sorry. It's not that it's wrong. It's not for me. And so I have to go, it said the fivefold in Ephesians chapter 4, if you look at the fivefold ministry, it talks about that is until they reach the maturity, right? And until they walk so much in unity and in love and are not thrown to and from by every wind of doctrine, right? They know that. There are some people who come and listen to this teaching that I do, and they're like, oh, I don't know. I thought I was right, but now I'm thinking this is right and this. Okay, you need to be back in the fivefold, okay? Because that's it. The fivefold is right. It is right until you reach this other area of maturity. And so anyway, you never really know where people are at, but there is an order to things where God has said, here's what you need to be in for this season in your life. But I'm past that season. So now I will only come under the Lord. But what I have to do is take people and say, all right, don't just believe it because I said it. Please don't believe it because of me. Go and test it with the Lord. Ask him what to do. People very often say, what do I do in this situation? And I'm constantly tempted to say, go do this, this, and this. Because, I want to help people. But I have to say, go ask Jesus. Just go ask Jesus, and then he'll show you. And if they're like, well, I don't know how to ask Jesus, then I can help them try to learn how to ask Jesus. That's the whole point, is that I need to help them come into that Joshua generation. Joshua said, this is how Joshua was. He said, okay, we're going to go take that land over there. Whoever wants to come with me and my family, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. We're going to go take the land. Everybody come with us and let's do it together. That is the Joshua generation. So I want everyone to come alongside and let's all go together. In fact, I have a mentoring group. The secret of my mentoring group is that I'm trying to teach people how to get mentored by Jesus. That's the whole point. It's not that you need to come under me. You need to come under the Lord. And so anyway, everybody needs discipleship. It's not about neglecting discipleship, but the discipling needs to be to bring you into a place of maturity where you can hear from the Lord yourself. That's the important thing. Anyway, okay, there's another way of receiving identity is through scrolls and mandates, okay? But there are many other things that God can do. Okay, for me, I've had many different experiences with him where I didn't think I was ready for something, or I didn't think it was who he made me to be, and he has told me to stand up, take my place, be who he made me to be. We're all gifted with spiritual gifts, right? Many of us have done spiritual gift inventories, at least if you are in the United States. Do you guys in other countries, do you guys do spiritual gift inventories? Do you know what I'm talking about? Where it's a little quiz that you take that will tell you what your spiritual gift is? No? That's good. Okay, Myrna's shaking her head going, no, what are you talking about? I think it's good that you're not doing it. And the reason I say that is because when I was testing out on people here do it all the time. Find out what your spiritual gift is by taking this test. Well, when you do that, a lot of times what happens is that you are testing out your soul gifts. And you're trying to test out your spiritual gifts, but you don't really recognize the difference between your soul and your spirit. And so what you're doing is you are really testing, what are you good at? What are the things how are you in your personality? These sort of things, right? And a lot of people, if I've seen this a lot, if they aren't functioning in the spirit very much, they're going to test out with gifts of service. That's not accurate, okay? It's not like if you're immature in the faith, then all you can do is serve people by working. It's not like that. It's a spiritual gift. So it's a gift that you're supposed to use in the spirit. And it's not something that's just meant for the earth or in your soul. And so there are many people who go, well, I think because I really love making things for people and I like making cookies and I want people to feel comfortable, that I must be gifted in hospitality, right? That's not always the case. That could be something you're really good at in the earth and that can be loving and can show people the love of the Lord. But is that your spiritual gift? When we engage in heaven together, we start to see how we function in a different way. I was really shocked to find that one of my main spiritual gifts is the gift of giving, because everyone has told me over the years, only those who have money naturally come to them will be able to have the spiritual gift of giving. If you have money naturally come to you, you're probably gifted in giving. Well, I was like, well, that didn't happen for me. I'm in the poorhouse all the time, so apparently that's not my gift. And so I discarded that, not realizing that for most of my life, I was operating under a poverty mindset. So I wasn't having a lot of money come to me, or it would slide through my fingers. But I also was not really given the opportunity to give in that way. And so what I was doing is I was functioning in a different mindset, and the enemy often attacks us in our gifting. And so sometimes, because you're being attacked so much, can be an indication that that might be where you're gifted, which was the case for me, and I had no idea. The funny thing is, when I started experiencing these things in the heavenly realms, the Lord showed me a lot of things that I did not understand. So he started taking me in these experiences with him in the heavenly realms, and he would give me something that I'm supposed to give to somebody else. It happened almost every single time I was engaging. And you'll probably notice this happens a lot when we engage. Okay, I'll be like, well, I don't understand, but the Lord has given me all of these gemstones and everybody's supposed to come get one. You know, it doesn't make sense to me, but it's what he does. It's like I'm a conduit. I'm supposed to receive so I can give. And so most of the time when I receive things in the heavenly realms, it's because I'm supposed to then give them to someone. So I get a lot of scrolls that are for other people. I get crowns that are for other people. Lots of different things. One of the other things that happens to me is that, well, I had this experience where I had never been to the scroll room before. And this is somewhere I just never experienced it. I'd heard a couple people talk about it, but I didn't understand it because I'd never been there. And I was engaging with this other group, and we were led into the scroll room. And in the scroll room, you can receive scrolls where you can receive mandates and blueprints. And so I'd never received a blueprint before. And I'd known other people who had, and so I really wanted to. And so when I was in the scroll room, I said, so, all right, can I receive a blueprint? And I was told, no, you can't receive a blueprint. And immediately I got in my soul and my flesh, and I'm like, man, what's wrong with me? Why can't I receive a blueprint? Did I do something wrong? Am I not mature enough? You know, I start going into these whole doubts about why I'm not good enough to have a blueprint. And then I decided, you know what? I'm going to go back and I'm going to ask why. And so I went back to that situation. I asked Jesus to take me back to the scroll room. And I said, why can't I receive a blueprint? And they said, it was an angel who was talking to me. And he said, you can't receive a blueprint because you're not supposed to receive blueprints. You're supposed to give blueprints. And I was like, oh. And it just hit me. That's not my gifting. I have a total different gifting. And so it's not that I even create blueprints. I just give them. So one of the things that happened after that is I was brought to this high court. And when I went to this court, first of all, I didn't even feel worthy of going to the court because it was like I could tell I was going to something really special. Even though I'd not been there before, it felt really, and so I bowed down low, like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm here. And Jesus said, stand up and take your place. And I was like, what? And so I stood up, and he told me to go sit on that bench in the courtroom. And it was the court of judges, and I was supposed to sit there and be a part of the governing of it. And I was like, wait, what? Not only do I not think I deserve to be in this court, but I definitely didn't feel like I deserved to be on the bench of this court. And anyway, one of the things that I learned after then I was serving on this court for a while was that it's where we release blueprints to people. And so blueprints to people and to other courts. And I didn't know that. And so it was interesting. I had this experience where he said, no, you're supposed to give blueprints. And I realized that's why I was on that court, was because that was my spiritual gifting, was to give and to help down below. And so anyway, it's just amazing what God can do. And we have a tendency to be really jealous of other people's gifts all the time. I don't know how many people are like, I just want to see. Why can't I be a seer? I need to see more. Everybody thinks this, okay? Unless you're a seer, then you don't think that because you naturally see. But anyway, it's so common. Everybody does that. But the funny thing is, there are people who God has made to not function that way. And I thought for a long time, so for me, I couldn't see very well. And everybody else, not everyone, but a lot of people around me were like, crystal clear, looks like a movie screen, I see everything. And me, I'm like, yeah, I'm doing all this by faith. Or, I just felt like I'm not there. I don't see this. I sense it, but I don't see it. And so anyway, I did a lot of gateway cleansing. It did help some, okay? I did start seeing a little more. But I'm telling you, it's not who God made me to be. And I didn't know that at the time. I just was like, man, I want to see like they see. And the Lord showed me who he made me to be is totally different. I am gifted with words of knowledge. And it's who he made me to be. I know, I always say, I'm using my knower. Because it's like, he just shows me, I can't explain. He doesn't show me in my eyes. He just shows me in my mind of what is happening, how it's supposed to happen, all of these things, what it means, how to do things. I get that in my mind all the time. So like even when we're in the court of accusations, I'm not hearing it with my physical ears. I'm not seeing it with my physical eyes. Sometimes I am seeing and hearing in my spiritual eyes and ears, but most times I'm getting words of knowledge about it. So it's like, I see. I say I see, but I'm actually not seeing. It's just an easier way of saying it. And so I have this all the time. And so I've recognized after a long time of God showing me, this is how I relate to you. This is how we function together. And it's true. And there have been times, like the first time he put this robe on me. Actually, I should tell you this story. I went into the heavenly realms. Someone was leading an activation where we were supposed to engage our thrones. And so basically, I'd never seen my throne before. I never, it was something that I just never even done. And so I went and I asked to see my throne because I wanted to sit in my throne and take my place. Well, when I saw my throne, two things happened. First, I was already seated there, which confused me because I'm thinking, well, this is my first time here though. And then I also saw on my throne my name in Hebrew. Well, I studied Hebrew when I was in college, so I can read Hebrew. I'm pretty much like a kindergartner, so don't give me any hard stuff. But I at least know how to read basic Hebrew. And I noticed that my name was written differently than I used to write my name in class. So there are different ways, kind of like in English where a k sound could be a C or a K, right? And so it's the same in Hebrew with certain letters. So like the S sound can be a sen, or it can also be a sonic. And so there are these two letters, and I always wrote my name with a sonic. And anyway, when I saw it, my name had it looked like it was a sen in the middle, except for it was actually, the dot was on the other side, and so it was a shin, which means my name, what it actually is not Christine, it is Christine. And so anyway, I've learned a lot about what my name means and why he named me that, which is also a part of my identity. But when he did that, he put a new robe on me. And I could tell he was putting a robe on me because I get these words of knowledge, right? So I'm sensing this, but I don't see it. And so I'm curious, what color is this robe? Because for some reason, I felt like it meant something. And so I said, Jesus, what color is my robe? Expecting him to just kind of be like red or something. But instead, he opened my eyes to see. And I saw that it was yellow. And so I can tell that I can see if he wants me to see, or if I ask to see. But how I'm naturally gifted is not in that way. And so when we do a lot of engaging together, Other people in the group are seers. And when they're functioning in their seer gift, I see more. When I'm functioning in my knower gift, they know more. This is just what happens when we function together in our spiritual gifts. They're actually meant to be used in the spirit. Imagine that. But anyway, it's not always meant to be as a greeter at the door. Though that's a good thing to do, it's actually meant to be used in the spirit together. And so that's why these group activations are so powerful, is because we can play off of each other in the spirit, connect in the spirit with one another to where, like Charles. I love Charles. I've never met him in person. I don't know him, but I love him. We've connected in the spirit as we're engaging together. He has these powerful experiences and it affects me. And so I know, I really hope that I'll get to meet him, in person, not just in the spirit, although I'm probably, both. But anyway, we're supposed to function like that. It's how we love each other. It's how we work together. It's how we are built up in the spirit. And so I'm really passionate about that because this is something that the church, I think, has not really had that revelation. Most of the church hasn't had that revelation that our spiritual gifts are meant to be used in the spirit with one another. We tend to say, okay, the only ones that are going to be in the spirit are prophecy or something. It's like everything else, just use that in the earth. Like, how are you going to lead a group? That means you're a leader. How are you going to teach? Are you going to do a Bible study? All of these different things. And if we use these things in the spirit, things are way more powerful. And so anyway, those are kind of some examples. I could have about 50 examples of how God has released more identity in me. But it happens all the time. It happens in the courts, even when I'm there and he shows me that I've had a familiar spirit that's been attached to me for a long time, and I thought that was part of my identity. I had a real bad one. I told you earlier about fear of man. That was a spirit that was a familiar spirit to me. I didn't even recognize it. I thought it was who I was. And this spirit, I would run back to all the time. I'd repent of having fear of man. Then someone would say something nasty about me, and I would all of a sudden be like, why do people hate me? And just be very much people pleaser, that sort of thing. And I was running back to that same spirit of accepting this fear of man. It wasn't until I recognized that the Lord brought up to me that this was a familiar spirit, and I'd allowed it to become part of my personality, that I could do a divorce decree in the courts, get rid of it, and now it's not part of my personality. I come back in line with my eternal image, which is who he says I am. It's not who my mom says I am. It's not who, these people I don't know says I am. It's not who the enemy says I am. It's not even who I say I am. It's only who he says I am. And so if I function in that, then I know I'm functioning in my true identity. And my true identity is supposed to get closer and closer to looking like Jesus. We're supposed to be a reflection of the Lord in the earth. It says in the Bible that all of creation is waiting for the manifest sons of God to appear. Do you recognize a son of God in the earth? Most of the time, not so much. Sometimes, but most of the time we walk around going, I don't know if there are any other Christians here, because we don't even recognize them because they're not manifesting, right? And so in order to be manifest sons of God, we have to come under our true identity. And I even think back, you guys will probably think it's silly to talk about this, but the story of the prodigal son. All of us have heard that story 1,000 times. But there's the son who decides that grass is greener on the other side. I'm going to ask for my inheritance early. I'm going to leave. And he went and squandered everything, fell into horrible sin, and just was lost, and finally came to his senses when he was deep in the pit. He came back, and his father was waiting for him and was so excited to see him. And he saw him, loved him, put a ring on his finger, a robe around him and said, "You are my son. Let's have a big feast and celebrate. You're finally home." And then the older son came and said, "What is going on here? You slaughtered the fattened calf. You haven't even slaughtered a goat for me and my friends, and I've been faithful this whole time." Right? You know what that is? That is him not recognizing his identity, because his dad said, "You've been with me the whole time. Everything I have is yours." And so the father was saying, "You don't understand who you are, And this is something I think is so common with us. We go, "But God, I've done this, 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 and this." And he goes, "Don't you get it? I've given you everything. Everything I have is yours already." And so sometimes our identity is not as a true son. We might know in our heads that we're a son, but do we function as a son? Not so much. I always think about my friend. I have a good friend couple who adopted 3 little ones from all different countries. One from China, one from India, and one from Burundi. And so all of them were in orphanages. They adopted them over the years. And I think about the middle child, okay? She is just such a wonderful kid. I can't even explain how awesome she is. She's so good. She's kind, she's loving, all these things. I'm going to cry. She's wonderful. But she still sometimes has an orphan mindset. She's been adopted for 11 years now. And she still always worries if her parents aren't going to love her enough and give her back or something. And they would never do that. They would never think about doing that. Not that they even could, but they would never do that. But she's still functioning with an orphan mindset. She still is trying to do the right thing to please her family. And that's how we function. We go around going, "But is he going to give me back? Am I going to mess up? I got to do the right thing to please him." And that's not how he looks at us. He says, "Everything I have is yours. I love you no matter what." My daughter, a couple weeks ago, I got really irritated with her. Okay. She did something. I don't even know what she did wrong now. I don't remember. But at the time, she was doing something that I just thought was terrible. And so I was really irritated with her and I was lecturing her. And she started crying and she said, "Do you still love me?" And immediately I'm like, "Oh, honey, of course I love you." I said, "I can never unlove you. You will always be my daughter, and I love you so much. I love you more every single day. It doesn't matter how much you mess up, I'm going to love you." Well, what's interesting is going through that with her changed everything with her. Kind of like my experience with the Lord. Now, all the time she goes, "Nope, because you'll never unlove me." And I said, "That's right." But it's really, we have to come to that place where we know so much about who we are that we know God will never unlove us, And even though we might know it in our head, it has to be so deep inside of us that it's who we are, that we know that we can't screw up enough to get outside of his love, And we have to go, wow, I can walk like he walks, and even if I mess up, it's going to be okay. And so I want to function as not only a son, but a manifest son, where people will look at me and go, "Yeah, she has his resemblance." I get that. When people see my middle daughter Eden, they go, "Oh, she's definitely your daughter. She looks just like you," right? And I want people to say that about me and go, "Wow, she just looks just like him. There's something about her. It just reminds me of God." It reminds me of the Father somehow. I want people to do that because that's who we're supposed to be. And I want to function like he functions and not always be a beggar. I don't want to beg my Father for my next meal. That's not what he wants us to do. He wants us to know we already have everything we need. there's no way he'd let us go hungry, right? We don't have to beg for our healing. We don't have to beg for our next meal. We don't have to beg for our next job. If my dad, who is a graphic designer and he owns his own business, if I was without a job, he'd do whatever it took to get me a job in his business. God's going to do the same thing with you. Don't ever think you don't have enough. In fact, no, you have more than enough. You have everything that he has. It's yours already. All you have to do is to say, hey, Dad, let's do that fattened calf tonight. Let's do it. And so that, anyway, I could go on for hours. I shouldn't. So there's so much that has to do with identity, but we have to just let the Lord show us. We have to be ready to engage with him and go, take me wherever you want to take me and show me whatever you want to show me. And just receive it. And some of it might seem really strange, but you know what? Every bit of it will move you into who you're supposed to be. And when you function in who you're supposed to be, then other people will feel free to function in who they're supposed to be. One of my favorite things about me stepping into my true identity is that I have seen so many other people feel free to step into who their true identity is. And it's not because I've done anything special. It's just because I'm going to be who I am. And now I'm not going to apologize for it like I used to. I mean, every once in a while I fall back into these ways, I'll admit. There was a time when every story I told was like, oh my gosh, you're going to think this is so crazy. This is going to sound so weird. I don't know if I can tell you. And I was timid of doing this because I didn't know if I could be me. Really, that's what I was more timid about. I didn't know if I could be me. And once I finally started recognizing that I'm going to be me no matter how weird it looks, now I don't have much problem with that anymore. There are times when I'm still like, oh, God, I don't know if I can say this to this person. That is weird. There are times when I still do that, but I never question who I am now. I know that he has made me who I am. I still have junk that I work through every day. Today, I'll tell you, I'm going to be completely vulnerable and honest with you about what I came to today. It was one of those things. I was talking to a friend about, it's kind of funny, but she was talking about how she's doing this event that she asked me to come to. It's a spiritual retreat that has to do with healing. And she wanted me to come and use some of my gifts in her retreat. So I'll be doing that. And she said, but it's the first one I'm doing, and I want everyone there to be able to, be free to give and receive, but just let's do this for the Lord and see what he wants to do with this retreat. And so I was like, okay, sounds good. And then she said, and I'm going to be taking pictures of all of it so that we'll have pictures for it to go on the website so people will know what it's like. And I'm like, okay, cool. But really, I'm like, I don't want pictures of me. Are you kidding me? I don't want to look at myself, and I certainly don't want other people looking at me. And so I have a problem with this, all right? And she's like, why do you say that? And I'm like, I just have this whole weight problem that I've been struggling with my whole life. And I said, it's just who I am. And she stopped me and said, do you know why you have this weight problem? I'm like, I don't know. It's in my genes. I've always had it. And she said, it's because you keep speaking curses over yourself all the time. And I was like, oh, it was like, you're so right. I knew she was right. And I recognized at that point, it's also a deep-seated belief. Because when people start, sorry, I'm crying. When people start saying, you're so beautiful, things like this, I say thank you to be polite. But in my mind, I think, that is a lie, And that's not from the Lord. How I'm believing, how I'm thinking, that's not God. I know this in my mind. But I have allowed a familiar spirit to take hold. Every single day, We have to be open to correction. And we have to know that God has more for us every day. He wants to show me who he made me to be. Oh my goodness, you guys, thank you. I'm sorry to cry over something so silly. It's hard to receive sometimes, but these things are what grow us closer into who we're meant to be manifest sons. Because, we will stay the same as long as we keep partnering with old identity. We have to step out and reject the old identity and step into who our true identity is. And it's hard sometimes, but it's also really good. It's really good, and it's really freeing. And so, most people who are teaching classes like this, they're not going to be vulnerable about what they're dealing with that day. But this is part of my identity. My identity is to be a forerunner in the unpopular, in the things that the Lord's doing. And to be honest, part of being a forerunner for me is being a forerunner in the vulnerable and saying, hey, it's okay to put yourself out there because God has always got you. And it doesn't matter if people shut you down. It's about what he thinks about you, And so anyway, I believe that God is going to bring all of the church into a place of vulnerability where we can love each other, where we can encourage each other, and where we can truly push each other into who we're supposed to be, even when it's a little painful. Because, it's not easy for me to hear, hey, you're always talking about speaking life, and here you are speaking death over yourself. I don't know how much I preach on speaking life to everyone around me, and I do it in other areas of my life all the time. But then there's this one area that I will speak death over. That's not okay. And I need somebody to say, hey, that's not from God. You can't be doing that. And we have to be okay with this with each other, to where we can hear that and not be upset, not be mad, but be so thankful that our junk is being brought to the surface so we can cut it off, Because if she hadn't said that to me, I'd still be walking in this, I don't want to walk in this for 40 more years or 100 more years. I want to just cut that crud off and walk in the freedom. I mean, I know who I'm supposed to be. I know who God truly made me to be. I just have to start walking in it. Anyway. Oh, goodness, you guys. I appreciate you. God, he knows. He knows what we need. I really love, Sheila said, I had so much hindrance the past sessions, and he opened the door for me to be here. I am glad to be here with you all. You know what? I was just telling Irene and Charles before we started, and I think you're and Michael too, but I was saying, I ask the Lord, every time we do these classes, I ask the Lord to bring everyone to the class who's supposed to be here at the right time, and then to keep everybody else out who's not supposed to be here. So if you had hindrances that kept you from being on live in the past sessions, it's because you needed to not be on live at the last sessions. I just got to tell you that. It could be even God allowed, a train to pass by or something, and you don't understand why you had to miss. But God knows, and he knew who exactly needed to be in this session. And so anyway, I'm just putting that out there because I truly believe him when he does this. And so that's also why I'm not upset if there are 3 people on, and I'm not excited if there are 300 on. It's all about who he wants to hear just the right thing at the right time. So anyway, I love you, Sheila. Thank you for being here. All right. Well, enough bawling like a baby. How about, does anybody have any questions about identity, about how they can grow in their identity? Erin, Michael, raise your hand. Go for it, girl.
So I'm using my car Bluetooth. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I just wanted to say what you shared just now. I love that, and I just honor that about you so much. Because, like you said, a lot of people won't speak on the things we're actively currently dealing with. And kind of there's this almost like a facade of like, I've got it all together. And so I just wanted to say that I truly see value and honor that in you as someone else who operates that way. It's a big deal to be in community with other people like that, because a lot of the times other people, when you speak on your when you're vulnerable, people are like, well, you shouldn't be doing these things. And like he said earlier, it's not up to them if you should be doing it, and it's not even up to you if you should be doing it. It's up to the Lord. And I don't want to end up in the belly of a whale. So I'm going to keep doing, what he has me doing. And I just honor the fact that you're the same way. I have such a heart for you. And I just love you. Sorry, that's all. I said to say that. You're one of my favorites. I love you, Christine. Okay, I'm done.
Thanks, Aaron Michael. I see Charles said, I need to know my destiny and identity desperately. If you are desperate to know your identity and destiny, then I would say desperately seek the Lord. I mean, desperately just go to Jesus and say, I really, really need to know who I am, what you want me to do, what I'm made for, and he might give you really different kind of experiences than what I had. But I guarantee you that if you really seek him for it, he'll show you. And here's another thing. I didn't share this. That's pretty important, actually. One of the main ways that I kind of brain fart. Okay, so sorry about that. But one of the main ways that he's shown me more of my identity has been through showing me what my mountains of influence are. And so in the kingdom of God, the first realm of heaven, we each have mountains there. And then below those mountains are generally 7 other mountains that sometimes have 7 mountains under them and 7 mountains under them. So anyway, it could be a ton of mountains or it could be just a few. But the point is, when I first went to seek what are my mountains of influence, he only showed me 3 mountains to start with. And honestly, I was like, well, man, I just really want to know what all my mountains are. And I realized later that he would only show me my mountains because those were the ones he wanted me to focus on. And it's probably because those were the only ones I was ready for as well. Okay, so sometimes if he shows them all to you, praise God, you're awesome. You're ready. For me, he has done it very one by one kind of thing. Okay, so the first were 3, but ever since then it's been one by one. And when he does this, he'll even show me that I'm not supposed to see some of it. And others, he'll say, focus here. And so there are some times when he just wants me to focus on one mountain of influence. And so like I have a family mountain. A lot of people do, but this is a mountain where he'll say, focus on your family mountain. And when I do, he'll show me, hey, now you need to really focus in on your husband. And so I'll just start declaring blessings over my husband and cutting off things that he's struggling with and things like that, But he's shown me things that surprised me. One of the first 3 mountains he showed me, 2 of them were normal, okay, what I would consider normal. A family mountain, and I had a homeschool mountain, okay? So I homeschool my kids, and he showed me I have a homeschool mountain as well. But the third one he showed me, it was a power mountain. And when I say power, I mean like electrical power. And I was like, electrical power? What in the world? Because I don't really have anything to do with electricity or power or anything. I always kind of was annoyed by physics in school and took only the amount that I had to take. And I didn't really care about that stuff. So I was surprised that I had a power mountain. But then after he showed me this power mountain, later that night, I can't even explain how it happened, I just all of a sudden had this huge passion for electrical frequencies and stuff. And I started researching everything I could find on quantum physics. I never was that person before. And all of a sudden, I am passionate about quantum physics. And anybody who knows me now knows I'm passionate about that. That's something that you'll hear me talk about that stuff all the time because he's given me a power mountain. And I didn't think I knew how to function on a power mountain. And now he's showing me, oh, do this, do this. This is what you need to do and how it relates to all things in our lives. And so I've been surprised at what he's shown me about these things in the heavenly realms, taught me things there, and then shown me how he's actually been prepping me my whole life. He's been preparing me for things my whole life about this, and I didn't understand it. And so you never know what he'll show you. It might be weird. You know, it might be something that you're like, wait, what? Really? Did I just see that? I think I might be making that up. You know, you might think that. But I guarantee you, he will bring you into it if he shows it to you. So he will show it to you at the right time. Just ask to see, what are my areas of influence? Oh, I have a finance mountain? Okay, what should I do there? And then just start functioning how Jesus shows you to function. You know, it may look different than everyone else, and that is okay because it's about your identity. Aaron Michael, you have a hand. Go ahead.
Hi. Okay, so my question is about, I've been seeing these eagles a lot recently, like a lot, like weirdly a lot. For example, when I was on my way up to Canada, I saw at least 24 bald eagles, and they were all really low. Like sometimes you'll see them like up high in the sky or perched at the top of a tree or something like that. But there were like 24 of them as I'm driving up there, and there were like flocks of them, which is weird. I don't think eagles normally fly in flocks, but there were flocks of them, and it was almost like they were following us as we were driving up there. And anytime I've gone on a long drive, and the only time I go on these long drives is when the Lord's sending me somewhere for something. And anytime I've gone on these long drives, I end up seeing these eagles, like when I drove down to California that first time, and I was like, there's another eagle, remember? And so I'm just wondering, like, what is that about? Because I have a feeling, a strong feeling that it has something to do with identity. I just don't know what exactly.
That actually, oddly, is an easy question for me.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. Everyone, I'm going to mute you again because you have background noise. And you can unmute yourself when you need to talk. But if you're seeing eagles everywhere, he is bringing you into an apostolic season, which is hilarious because I know that's what he's doing to you right now. He's saying, hey, you need to start this. An apostle is someone who goes into usually a different place to start some sort of ministry or business. And that's what you're doing. You are an apostle. If you even look back at what the word apostle means in the New Testament, it's not what a lot of people think. It's not just someone who saw Jesus. That's not only what an apostle was. An apostle was someone who went to another area and was kind of a representative and started something. And so that's why Paul was an apostle. He went and started churches everywhere, right? Doesn't mean you're going to go and be a church planner. It means that he's calling you into a season of the apostolic. And so a lot of times today we hear the word apostle, and that means that's someone who has this amazing anointing power that we need to come under. That's not really a biblical definition of apostle. It's just probably how a lot of people are using it. But the apostolic that God is talking about is that you are going and you're starting something he's telling you to do. And I already know that he's doing that in you in several different areas right now. In fact, I know I can just count in my head of like 3 different areas that he's trying to have you being an apostle in. And so it's really not surprising at all that he would show you eagles everywhere. And if you know the four faces of God, the eagle is the apostle. And so when you're seeing through the eyes of the eagle, or you're flying over things or whatever in the heavenly realms, it's because he's trying to bring you into the apostolic. So there we go. How's that, Aaron Michael? You can unmute if you want.
Oh my gosh. That was, yeah, okay. Yep, I hear you.
True.
Okay, good. Awesome. Thank you. That makes sense.
Good. I saw also Charles said, I'm growing hugely in this time of unemployment, but desperate for an income. Don't know if this is holding me back. I want to tell you, Charles, I have a teaching. I'll go back and find it on YouTube. I did it a long time ago. It's one of these things that the Lord has been bringing up to me a lot lately. I've done several teachings on it, but I think it would be really beneficial for you to go back and listen to it. So I might post it on the intro class or send it to you privately, but it's really about functioning as sons instead of as an orphan or a slave. And so anyway, this is something that I think probably is what is holding you back, is maybe being in a different mindset that you're unaware of. And so I talked about this briefly here, but there is a great document that I have that goes through kind of every area of your life to say, are you functioning like this or like this? Are you functioning like this or like this? And you can kind of identify things in yourself that you're like, oh, yep, I do that. Oh no, I'm pretty good on this one, and it's good because then you can deal with that stuff in the course and repent of that stuff and come in line with who you truly are. And so I think that will be important for you because you'll start manifesting the income that you need without even meaning to. When you start functioning like a son, it just happens. And I have to tell you, I am the prime example of this. By no means am I walking in some sort of big wealth or anything. And the funny thing is, all of the ministry I do, I don't get paid a penny for it, okay? All of the ministry, I have money that people sow into the ministry for my time and all of that, right? You might know that if you want a private session with me. I still don't get paid for that. And it's not because someone's holding it back from me. The Lord has said to me to have them sow into the ministry, let the ministry govern that, and God will give me more than I need. Well, let me tell you, He gives me more than I need every time. What has happened has been phenomenal to watch because the places that we have income in our lives have not changed at all. But we used to live in, always worrying about where's the next penny going to come from? What can I do to earn more money? Because we have to pay this bill. This is going to be shut off. All of these things. It was really hard. It was like a hard life, really, that I lived in for a long time. And now what has happened is somehow we always have everything we need. It's really the Lord. He's just done it to where we have more than enough. We aren't lacking in anything. If ever I think I'm not going to have enough, He shows me and He provides for me. Even, I don't know if I told you, but we just got last week a confirmation about going to South Africa in May. This is my sister and me and another person. And we're going to South Africa at kind of middle to end of May. And note, we didn't have enough to go. Okay, this is always what God does. He tells us to go, and then we just have to trust that He'll provide a way. Okay, and so if any of you are like, well, I know I'm supposed to do that, but I can't because I don't have any funds for it. Just trust God. If He says do it, do it. So we said, okay, we're setting the dates. This is when we're going to go. And two of the ladies who are going had to get off work for that. Didn't know if they could, but knew God was saying to do it. One of them, her husband didn't want her to go because it would cost her, her family, $900 just to not work during that time, on top of how much it would cost to actually take the trip. And so she was like, well, he says that we're not going to be able to afford it, so I can't do it. And then we also just had all of the money that we needed to raise in a very short amount of time. Well, let me tell you, it has been so amazing to watch. Sunday morning, we knew how much we needed to raise, and we didn't know how it was going to happen, and we didn't know how, you know, the husband would come in line and then the jobs would come in line and all this, but we just knew. And so we said, hey, so to the ministry that we serve, we said, hey, is it okay if we book this ticket and we have the money by the time we go? And they said, sure, we know that God always provides for you. And so we did that. And what happened was by the afternoon, we had almost everything we needed. The next day, the two ladies asked off for work, and the one who was going to lose $900 to go, her work said, well, let's just make your sick days. We can put sick days in here and pretend like you're sick and make it to where you don't miss any kind of pay. And so it won't cost you anything to go. And then, so therefore, her husband came in line with that. And then I went to book the tickets, and it was way less than it was when I looked just a few days prior. And so anyway, long story short, we have almost everything we need already in just like 2 days. And so God knows exactly what we need and how to make it happen. When it doesn't make sense, it doesn't, I had no idea. In fact, God was telling me, don't send out any support letters to me personally. Don't try to raise money by selling stuff. Don't even, I thought, well, maybe I could charge for tickets to the conferences that I'm going to be doing. And he said, nope, don't do that. Make them for free. And then I was in a one-on-one private meeting with somebody who I'd never met before. And at the end of the meeting, God said, you need to ask them to sow into your ministry. And I was like, I can't do that. I don't even know this lady, you know, and I was arguing with the Lord. And then the Lord, he kept on, come on, you need to do this. And so I finally said, hey, I never do this. I'm so sorry, but the Lord is telling me I need to do this. So I told her about our trip, and she's like, yes, that's actually what we were just engaging about my business. I wanted to go into full-time ministry, and God said, no, you need to do this veterinary business because it's going to fund my kingdom. And so what she does is every week she looks around for places that she can sow into the kingdom. And so when I presented this from the Lord to her, it was an answer to her prayer to know where to sow into. And so it's like, what? I mean, I don't know people like that. And so it was just amazing how she just provided about half of what we needed to go. And it was just, man, it's amazing how God does this. It's crazy. But the whole point is that it's because my mindset has shifted to where I know God has unlimited resources, and he said that he'll give me everything I need to do what he wants me to do. So if it's attached to my destiny or my mandates, then I have all the resources I need for it. He has already said he'll gift me in what I need to speak. I never know what I'm going to speak on when I do these things. He says, go to this conference, speak for 8 hours. And I'm like, what the heck am I supposed to speak on? Every time now, he's like, I'll tell you when you get up there. So I step onto the stage and the Holy Spirit takes over. And so it's amazing how God will give us what we need. We don't need to try to get it ourselves and be clever and have the right ideas. He will show us what we need to do at the right time. Aaron Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that that's exactly what he does with me. Yeah, can you hear me?
Now I can, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was just saying that's basically exactly what he does with me, like all of the time. And somebody was saying to me, I have a friend who lives in New Zealand, and I'm heading to New Zealand soon. And they were saying, like, wow, that must be scary. And I was like, oh, weird. That never occurred to me. And so what I said to him was, yeah, it's scary if you don't trust that the Lord is going to follow through on what he's told you to do. But when you know that, like, yeah, so I'm driving right now to Lacey. I still don't know where I'm staying tonight or the next few nights, but I know that he's told me to go. And he hasn't said, like, wait. He hasn't said, you know, don't go until this, that, and the other are figured out. He said go. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going, you know. And when he has spoken a word to you and you have confirmation after confirmation, you know it's what you're supposed to do, you just go. You just do it. And he sets everything up. And that's how I even ended up going to New Zealand. Like, I knew I was supposed to. And so I was just going about my day as he was telling me what he was telling me to do throughout my day. And next thing I know, a woman that I ascended with and did a court case with, helped her through some stuff, was like, yeah, my husband and I are going to pay your way for all of this crazy, wild stuff. And I'm like, what? Like, it was just wild. So I just wanted to just piggyback on what you were saying and just say, like, yeah, when he tells you, believe him, you know? So that's all.
All right. Well, you know, I love how God provides like this. It's just really wild. And it is cool how we don't always know. We just have to step out on faith. You know, the truth is the currency of heaven is faith. It's belief. And so if you don't have faith for something, it won't manifest. And so if God says, step out on faith and claim this or do this, you know, you have to do that or it won't manifest. That's how he is. Everything is like that. I want to read what Sheila said up here because she had a good question too. She said, oh my stars, this is confirmation. Identity heard twice. I've been asking, well, the whole teaching. I sat in on Ryan Lestrange this morning. Identity, wow, you have touch base. Thank you, Lord. I've been praying to go deeper and know who I am, and bam, here I am. Wow, okay. Now my question is how to move in my identity. But when we go into the course and there's much distraction, did I get so unfocused from distraction? And it kind of bothers me that I can't focus. So how can I go around this? I was literally just talking to a friend about this today. There is this particular demon who is all about distraction. And it's the most annoying thing because it can be something that's really difficult that they're trying to distract you with or something that's really simple. Anyway, this demon has been annoying me for a long time. Not all the time, but from time to time, he'll come back again. And what I would recommend doing is to get that little bugger off of you, is to go into the courts, and first thing you do is repent of letting distraction be a part of your life and being distracted, okay? That in itself will help because that demon likes to have distraction. So for instance, for me, this happens a lot physically, and this specific demon is known for bothering your right hand. Why? It might be itchy, or it might feel like bugs are crawling on it, or it might be a pain in your hand or some sort of thing. And usually this happens right when it's trying to distract you of something. But sometimes it can be as simple as, oh, you start thinking of other things and other images come in your mind, and then you're like, oh, wait, what was I doing in the courts again? Or trying to make you fall asleep all the time. This certain one also does that, constantly trying to get you to fall asleep when you're engaging. You could be wide awake, doing everything, and then all of a sudden you start engaging and you're falling asleep. Anyway, this is something that is difficult for a lot of people. I recommend, like I said, first thing, just repenting of being distracted, of letting things distract you from the Lord and all of that. And then once that happens, you likely will be able to focus better after you have done that. So if you still have trouble, I recommend going in with someone else. We have several people who are happy to help people go in and deal with stuff. And so if that is you and you really need help, let us know. We do ask for a donation for these things for our time, but if you can't do that, we'll make it work for you so that you can have some help, okay? We also have several people in our mentoring group who are okay with walking people through this sort of thing. Everyone's kind of at a different level, so that's not everyone, but yeah, if you need help with that, we'd be happy to help with that as well. Also, Elwika, I don't know if I'm saying your name right, but said, I'm from South Africa. Where are you going to be? Would love to attend. Okay, first of all, go find the South Africa Engaging Heaven Facebook group. I am going to post it on our intro page too, but add yourself to that because we'll have all the updates for the South Africa trip that's coming up in May. So we'll be in Sasolburg, which is in Free State, and then we'll also be in Cape Town. So Sasolburg is only like an hour and a half away from Joburg Airport. So, or Tambo, I think is how you say it, or something like that. Anyway, yeah, so I really hope to see you. That would be great. Let's see. Charles, yay, I'm glad you're going to be there. And I like how you said that. 1,200 kilometers from me, but somehow I will be there. Okay, I remember you said you're in East London, I think, right? So the closest for you, I think, is Cape Town. So maybe you can hop on a plane or something. I don't know. I've noticed that the plane rides there are so cheap in country. It's way better than it is here. I just found a flight for somebody for $50, where here it's like, oh, you never get a flight for $50, even if it's right next door practically. So anyway, awesome. Any other questions about identity, you guys? Elwika said, Cape Town for me too. I'm in Mossel Bay. Oh, I have so many good friends in Mossel Bay. I actually considered going there, but the Lord did not say yes to that. So I hope that you do come to Cape Town. Maybe you can get together with the other lovely Engaging Heaven people in Mossel Bay. That's cool. So Charles said, 699 Rand, but yeah, I'll be there. Okay, 699 Rand. I can't remember how much that is. This is me. I always have to use my Convert app. You'll think I'm crazy, I'm sure. So 699. See, that's $49 for us. That's so cheap. We never get away with that. That's so cool. Elwika said, I know them. We will all be there. Woohoo! Oh, good. I'm so glad to hear that. That makes me very happy. Oh, good. Anyway, all right. How about any more questions, you guys? No more questions? Okay. Well, if you do have a question, go ahead and put it in there and maybe I can address it later. But let's engage in heaven together. So I'm going to turn off my video. But what you can do is put in the chat box anything that you experience. And kind of like I talked about earlier in this session, when we engage in heaven together and use our gifts in the Spirit together, they all strengthen each other. And so even if you don't know how to function in your gifting yet, a lot of times it will come to the surface when we're engaging in heaven. And so just by faith, try to go along and see if the Lord opens things up for you. As we go together, we'll see where the Lord leads us and what he leads us to do. Usually, if we're engaging about identity, he tends to do things like that. And, you know, there are lots of things I didn't mention. He can give you gifts that have to do with your identity and all sorts of things. But we'll just see what he does and trust him to release that stuff in us. If he does something with you that seems very strange, it could be really important to encourage somebody else. One time I didn't want to say it, but I saw all these animals crossing, and I saw one person on this animal crossing just in front of me, and I thought, well, that's weird. I better not say that. And then eventually I just said it anyway because I was trying to step out on faith. And someone was so encouraged because she saw herself on this animal and was crossing right in front of all of us, but didn't want to say anything because she thought it was too weird. And so we just need those confirmations sometimes. Anyway, let's focus our hearts and our minds together. Jesus, thank you so much for your love. Thank you for drawing us close and drawing us into the heart of the Father. We commit our imaginations to you right now, and we just want to flow in whatever you want us to flow in. Please cover our whole experience with your blood so the enemy can't come and try to penetrate. Thank you, Lord. Yes, I just saw us stepping over a threshold with him, holding his hand. And then all of a sudden I see water coming up like around our feet. It's just getting higher and higher. And then I see some of us like swimming with Jesus. And now I see some people they're like going under the water down to the bottom. And I see like on the bottom of this water, all of these really beautiful gemstones at the bottom, and the water's just crystal clear. But then I see other people like climbing up on the bank and just sitting there kind of like they're basking in the sun, but it's the glory of the Father that's just shining down. Thank you, Lord. Oh, wow. I saw 3 people just on the banks of I think it's a river. It might be the River of Life. It kind of feels like that. But they were laying back on the ground, and Jesus he took a scroll and put it inside their mouth. And it's like it's just sticking up out of their mouth. And so if you feel like that's you, I would just, by faith, just eat that scroll. Thank you, Lord. And then I saw someone else where he laid out the scroll on the table, on this table, and is trying to show you the scroll. Thank you, Lord. I actually see a friend of mine who's just being dropped down into the river of life and is receiving healing. Manush said, I heard no more handicap. Thank you. Thank you. And then this is something I've never seen him do before, but I saw Jesus with the help of a couple of angels who are like changing the color of people's hair. And I feel like he's trying to show some sort of new identity in that. And I think the colors have meaning. So I don't know if you're seeing anything like this. If you see a certain color, just maybe ask what it means. Ask Jesus. Charles said, "Please, Lord, show me my identity and destiny scrolls." Charles, I don't know if you're seeing this, but I saw the Lord just give you a gift, and it was this kind of pocket watch. And I think that part of what He has for you, maybe a major part, I don't know, but it's about you redeeming time, taking control of time, and it has a lot to do with you governing time. And so that's a really powerful thing that He's putting in your hand right now. Sheila said, "No more handicap," kind of resonated with me when you said it. Wow. Charles, I saw for you as you started really taking control and governing this time, you also are helping other people with that in their own lives. And I saw when that happened, it was like this veil. I saw you doing this with a woman who it's like it just took the veil off of her eyes and she was able to function in who she truly is just because you used your gift in her life. So that was really cool. Awika said, "I'm here tonight on behalf of my daughter, Jacqueline. She's been treated unjustly. Can I stand in the gap for her?" I would say just ask Jesus what He wants you to do. He'll lead you into the courts if that's what you're supposed to do. Or maybe look over her mountain and just take control of the enemy in her life or whatever. So ask Him how you should go about that. But yes, I'm sure He will lead you in that. Sheila said, "I heard Russia when you spoke of Jesus handing out hair colors, but I am here sitting on some rocks by a broom with someone. I mean, Brooke is what she said. By Brooke. That's cool. Oh, she meant fuchsia instead of Russia. Okay. That makes sense. Mm. And then Charles said, sounds like my sister, an awesome woman of God. It's cool. And then I saw someone just receive a ring from Jesus. This person who was receiving the ring that I saw, it's not like a ring of authority, it's more like a wedding ring. I feel like you're supposed to really receive that you are his bride. And now I see several people on their mountains just kind of waiting, like for the Lord to show them something. And so, if that's you, just focus in on your mountain and ask the Lord to show you if you have different areas of influence that you're ready for. I saw one person who had all these butterflies start flocking to her. And I could tell that one of your areas of influence, one of your mountains, is transformation. Mm. I see that many people are receiving gifts from Jesus, but these gifts are all very different and have something to do with your identity. Mm. I see Charles said, please show me my gifts, Lord. And then Elwika said the color turquoise. And Charles said, please help me to see things, Lord. Please give me the gift of seeing what you want me to see, Lord. Charles, I see this happening for you, and I guess I can't tell if this is a gift of who you are or if it's for what you need to do right now. But Jesus just gave you this big bat, kind of like a baseball bat, except for larger. And I guess maybe you would consider it a club. But anyway, this, I could tell it's for really like, it's like a weapon for the enemy. And so I've never seen it anything like this before, but I can tell that you're supposed to get rid of the things that have been hindering you with this bat right now. And so I think that it might have to do with you needing to see and how this demon has been really hindering your seeing and experiencing things. And so just by faith, take that bat and start getting rid of the enemy on your mountain. Huh. This is actually pretty cool. I saw as you were using that bat, then Jesus was like pouring his blood over them and on like on the path that you're going on to. And so anyway, it felt like a really good thing. Like you're doing this, but he's the one who's like doing the finishing work, if that makes sense. It's really cool. We just want to receive more of who we are and how to function in that, Lord. Wow. I see another person who is focused. It's like I'm seeing how you are in the realm of the earth, but you're focused on a computer screen, and the Lord has a purpose for you in this. And it feels like really important. This is part of your destiny. Thank you, Lord. Seems like you've never done this before, but it's you're gonna see that this is what you're made for. Thank you, Lord. I saw someone just hold out their hands, and he placed this book in their hands, and this is your book of destiny. But I can see that as you are reading it, it's like you're not even knowing it's your book of destiny. It's just like a really interesting story. um, and then Jesus is just, he lifted your chin kind of with his hand and was just saying, this is you. And so I feel like there's someone who just doesn't even believe that they could have such a story as what God has planned for them. And if that is you, just receive that from Jesus, that this truly is for you. I see Sheila said, okay, I see my ex-pastor who always shut me down, said I don't know how to talk and can't talk, but when you spoke of the mountain, I heard ministry. I always self-sabotage. Then the butterflies you said is my whole life. I love butterflies. That's me. Mm. Thank you, Lord. We want to keep our hands and our hearts open to you so that you can continue to release more identity in us. Even if we're not focusing well in the heavenly realms, just please show us where we have blockages so that we can repent of these things too and come back in line with our true identity, which is found in you. We don't want to partner with false identity anymore. Thank you, Lord, for your love for us and for being gentle with us. Oh, Lord, we do want to step into our responsibility and our destiny. Thank you. Amen. I saw, Michelle said, I saw myself walking through a dark place with a glistening sword in my hand that lit up. As I walked, the light pierced the darkness. Wow. And Sheila said, yes, please, thank you. And Charles said, yes, please, Lord, and thank you for the blessing of Christine's ministry for us. Thank you, Charles. You know, the Lord is so good to us, and he will continue to open our eyes and our ears and our noses and our mouths and every way, our minds, everything to him. We just have to have that desire. And so if you have the desire of going after the Lord and you don't know how, just keep on asking, keep on pressing, and keep on. If you feel like something happens where you can't figure out what to do, you know, or maybe you don't know how you even got to this place, just shed it all. Yield everything to him, surrender everything to him, and he will bring you into a new place. Anyway, I hope you have a great day. Maybe I'll see a couple of you next tomorrow. Hi, Julie. You look like you're on a plane. Is it? Are you on a plane? No, you're muted. Okay, here.
I just saw your post on Facebook. So late.
You're late. We're just ending. But you know, tomorrow we will be on as well. So.
Too late for the next session.
Yeah, you could do tomorrow's session. Will be good.
Yeah. Okay. It's all
All
right.
right, guys. Well, I will see you tomorrow or next week. All right. Love y'all.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.